Hi there, this is AVJ and today we are going to talk about Agile Planning. So if you have already decided to work on Agile framework, then you should start doing the planning. Agile is definitely an efficient way of turning customer vision into reality. In the Agile Planning, we have 5 core elements: vision, roadmap, release, iteration, and daily. Let's start with vision first. Vision describes why the project is being undertaken. What is its desired end state? How does this project support the organization strategy? Every company has a vision statement. For example, Amazon's vision statement is to be the Earth's most customer centric company, to build a place where people can come to find and discover anything they might want to buy online. But when you are talking in terms of Agile, our vision statement is more focused on software development. And therefore, in Agile, a vision statement format look like this. But if I have to convert it into a vision, let us say a vision statement of a bank, then this could be something like, for a banking customer who wants a world-class financial services, the product Demat services is an investment category that has best minimal charges for any transaction in the market, unlike other banks who are internal or are intraday charges and other charges are much more cheaper. The vision statement must articulate the goal for the product. Vision by itself does not give any valuable output. Therefore, for the development team, it is broken down into themes, which is further broken down into features, and further broken down to user stories. And all of this is put down into a backlog, which is called as product backlog, as a product backlog items. Just have a look to how the product backlog looks like. We have themes, which is further broken down into features or epics, which is further broken down to user stories, and every user story is given a rank. Rank is nothing but an order sequence how customer wants them, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, likewise. And each user story is streamlined to respective sprints. Also, estimation for each user story is done. Priority is set for each user story. 1 being the urgently required, 2 be the highly required, 3 is medium, and 4th is low priority. Also, we define owners. Generally, product owner is the owner of that user story. And remember that by this time, your project will be fully funded as you have already started working on the vision. That means your budget approvals are in place, resource approval are in place, and all the project constraints are fine. Let's move to roadmap. A step-by-step pictorial implementation of achieving your vision or goal presented on a timeline is a roadmap. To define a roadmap, you should have high-level estimates of these user stories, which is achieved by setting up those estimation in an estimation workshop. We'll talk about this estimation workshop in another video. Okay. And once these estimations are done, we could have high-level schedule, which is defined and projected. Moving on to next, which is release. In the release phase, we have to start with release planning. Release is nothing but a project at hand. Release will be identified based on what all features customer wants and how soon they want it. Since during the roadmap we have high level estimates, and therefore we would know by what time the intended feature in a release vision can be developed and delivered. Another thing is resource planning. When I say resource planning, I mean the Scrum team. A Scrum team is generally 6 plus minus 3 people on the team. Each has to be a cross functional self organizing developer. When I say so, I mean it would have an architect, designer, BA, developer, tester, and admins in the Scrum team. Each member of the team should handle multiple roles. We would also define Scrum roles and responsibility in the release planning, tools and template, RAID logs, that is risk assumption issue dependency logs to understand the project constraints, process and procedure, all the required architectural design documents or UI design documents, prototypes, BRDs, FRDs are defined and baselined here. Environmental and infrastructure requirements are also defined. Test data management is also done here. Configuration management will also be handled in the release planning phase itself. Next one is iteration. Iteration is a repetition or cycle which repeats itself. In Agile, it refers to as sprints. Sprints are a cycle of 1 to 4 weeks. And we would have to decide what would be the length of our sprint. So sprint length could be 1 week, 2 week, 3 week or 4 week. It cannot extend more than 4 weeks. Otherwise the purpose of the Agile is lost. So 2 weeks being the most common that I used. Okay. Moving on to next, daily. Daily represents the daily task performed by the team in a sprint. To explain this better, I would show you a sprint calendar that is maintained while you are working in an Agile project. A typical sprint calendar look like this. And each day the development is happening. Let me walk you through each element of the sprint calendar. First one is sprint planning. Since we are talking about 2 weeks sprint here, so our sprint planning would start on Monday. But if your sprints are more than 2 weeks, let us say 3 weeks or 4 weeks, or if your release is big, which may contain more number of sprints, say more than 4 or 5 sprints, then you may choose a separate sprint to do a sprint planning, and that is called sprint 0. 2 days are defined or assigned for the sprint 0. In the sprint 0, we will do the sprint planning. We will decide what to build in the next sprint, that is sprint 1. Product backlog items are prioritized and ranked like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. User stories are also streamlined. That means which user story will be aligned to which sprint. What goes into which sprint is also determined, be it high or low priority. Estimations are also checked for each user story. We would also define the definition of done in the sprint planning phase itself. Also, we will check the acceptance criteria is set by the project owner for all the user stories or not. A development team or a testing team cannot start a sprint unless an acceptance criteria is set. So it's kind of prerequisite to start a sprint. Product owner may also explain the business need or the release vision in the sprint phase itself. We would also derive velocity. Velocity is nothing but the rate at which team completes work in a sprint. It is calculated in terms of story points. And the last one is release kickoff, when the release is kicked off. Next one is daily stand-up meeting. It is facilitated by the Scrum Master and it is time boxed to only 15 minutes. Team focuses only on three things: what we did yesterday, what are we doing today, and what are the impediments. Remember that impediments are not discussed in details in the daily stand-up meeting. Scrum Master takes a note of these impediments and deal with them separately with individual members. But the time box of this 15-minute for the daily stand-up has to be maintained. Okay. Next one is JADE, Joint Application Development. In this section, the development team will discuss any questions or queries they may have, any clarifications regarding the current sprint, or any design gap will be sorted out here. Next is sprint refinement. This meeting happens between product owner, development team, or SMEs. There are many things that may come up while working. Therefore, it becomes essential to refine a sprint. This includes reprioritizing certain items, differing some, including some, re-evaluating certain tasks in the backlog. And if the task or user stories are greater than 12 hours, these need to be broken down further. Only product owner has the final authority to approve or disapprove any decision on the backlog, be it a product backlog or a sprint backlog. Next one is checkpoint informal review. As the name suggests, it is a checkpoint for the development team to check on the progress. How are we progressing? Are we able to meet our commitment or not for the sprint? What is stopping us in meeting our commitment? Next one is product backlog refinement. We would relook into the features under development and will reprioritize user stories under it. Team jointly decide what user stories will be the part of which sprint in the product backlog refinement section. Next one is sprint demo review. Demo or sprint review. Remember, by this time all your development work would be completed for that sprint and you are ready to demonstrate to the customer about the feature you have built. Customer feedback is taken on what's good, what needs to be improved, what needs to be stopped, and what amendment has to be made or any new add has to be done. Product owner identifies all the items which are done and can be shipped and deployed. Next is code deployment. So all the items which are marked as done in the sprint review or sprint demo are pegged and deployed into production. Next is sprint retrospective. So this is for the team to retrospect their work, the way they are working, what can be improved, what they can do better, what good things they have done this time, what bad they have done this time, what they should stop doing, etc. So this was all about the sprint calendar and the daily, and I hope this has given you a good overview of the agile planning. If you like it, do like and subscribe, and do watch my next video on Scrum workflow. Thank you very much.